Brilliant, 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 brilliant. Hello, Sue. Hello,
Well,
hello. Hello, hello. How are you? How are you? Just haven't seen you for ages, it seems.
it seems like forever, hasn't it? How you
How's the
been?
training going? How's the training going?
Good, 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 good. I'm getting all muscles. Look at.
I see them guns. The guns. Brilliant. Cannons, cannons. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant.
Well,
So it's on schedule. You're happy. It's not a stress, not a problem. It's easy, fun.
yeah, it's a bit more intense than what I anticipated. Struggling
Ah,
struggling to get through it just because there's so much reading.
ah,
It's very, what's the word? Uh,
memory.
technical,
Yeah.
technical memory shit, which I don't do well with. Um, so I'm just doing my. I think there's a lot of it that personally, between you and I don't really need. I don't need to understand every kind
Yep, yep,
of elliptical that's out there and how they function, and
yeah.
you know. Uh,
But
but
it's hard when you set up programs, though. You have to be comprehensive.
exactly,
Some
exactly.
everything. So
I can
yeah.
I can see if somebody never stepped foot in a gym, but thought, wow, this just sounds like an interesting field to be
Right,
in. They
right.
need to know, all that stuff. But, it's just a process of just going through the
Yeah.
motions.
You'll be surprised what people don't know. That's
Yeah,
why I like customized programs,
yeah,
because you never know what people do know and don't know. You have to customize. You have to customize.
yeah.
You've been getting away. You've been having fun. Have a good
We
week.
had my nephew's wedding this weekend.
Oh, wow.
It is back in my brother's backyard. It was very nice. The rain held out perfectly. As soon as everybody kind of started to leave around 3:30 in the afternoon, the skies opened up and it was just torrential rain. But the wedding
Wow.
started at 11:30, so we
All
had
right.
plenty
So
of
what's
time to
that?
celebrate, and it turned out very,
Oh,
very
good.
nice. Yeah,
Oh, good.
yeah.
Good,
And
good, good,
Justin
good,
and
good,
Ali were in
good.
from Pittsburgh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Ah, cool.
it was nice to see
Yeah.
them.
What's he like? I know, I've met Justin. He came on Zoom the one time. I
Well,
didn't get much on him. He was a bit guarded, but what's Ali like?
Ali's the queen. He's very
Ah,
flamboyant,
fluffy.
very,
Yeah,
he's almost too much over the top,
yeah.
and he I end up I think he likes me extra special because I'm the buffer between him and Cheryl.
Yeah.
Uh, and uh, I was telling him, we were alone, talking, and I said, oh, Cheryl is doing really great, with her program, with all the stuff that's gone on here, and she goes, oh, yeah, that's great. Well, 2 days later, she kind of went back to her old self when we were
Oh,
there.
interesting.
So it'll be interesting what she talks about, when she comes on Tuesday, because I understand what she's saying, um, and I understand him as well. But personally, between you and I didn't feel like being psychologist for the day. It was a
Yeah, yeah, good,
holiday.
good, 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 good.
No,
Yeah,
no, figure it out, Cheryl. You know,
yeah.
so her and him, their house is a mess, and
Yeah.
they just got new furniture and this, that, and the other thing. So they got everything, but they didn't get the right rug yet, the right wall hanging. So of course they said the queer eye for the in-laws,
Yeah,
and they come
yeah.
flooding through, and it just was for me, a real indication of Ali and Justin's inappropriate helping. They
Yeah.
painted their house, painted the living room. We all went together and got all this wall
Painted
hangings and
Cheryl's living room.
Cheryl's living room, Cheryl's.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow.
So they kind of really invaded her space. Now, for the first time, Greg appears very happy. He got his wallet out. He's paying for all these pieces, and then he agreed to do some accent wall painting. That these beautiful gold walls, and
Ah,
the two gay men say, "Oh, you need an accent wall. We need
ah,
like a navy blue," and we're like, "Oh Jesus."
yeah,
This wall, that they just say it's this wall.
yeah,
I mean, their home is beautifully decorated. It's
yeah,
their
yeah.
taste,
But
and
exactly, but they decorate for themselves, not for others, which is
exactly.
always an irritation to me. Those makeover things. boy, I thought they were the rudest thing ever. You
Yeah.
pull somebody off the street and you force your view of what they think. It's like, no, sorry, up
Well,
yours.
that's what they did. That's what they did. And then they compounded the issue. Like Cheryl was okay with it. You know, she's like, yeah, okay, okay. You know, she gets real meek around Ali because she doesn't want to upset the apple cart. If she does, she'll never see her son, you know, but then under her breath, I don't know that I really like that. Blah, blah, blah. You know, I said to Bill later on, I said, it's her own fault. I don't want to hear any complaint. And she had an opportunity to say, you know what? Greg and I both really like the gold. Let's just keep it. You know, all these paintings, all these, they got nude, like a nude hanging in there now. I mean, and before their house was all Southwest. You know,
in a difficult position in terms of the capital diplomacy.
Absolutely. So by the time it's time now to go to cook, she had all this stuff she wanted to cook for to grill. We had the wedding in the morning. I'm like, why are we grilling so much food at night? We just ate all day at a wedding. Oh, I want everybody to come over to my house. So it was Bill and I, Justin and Ali, and Greg and Cheryl. So she had steak, hamburgers, salmon, shrimp.
Wow.
And then she was going to make potatoes. And Ali was like, you know, he wants to be a skinny bitch again because he gained some weight. So, you know, everything is, you know, that's what he calls himself. I want to be a skinny bitch, you know. So he's always conscientious about his food. He eats whatever he wants, but he eats very modest quantities of it to keep his weight down. Fine. But now, because he gained weight, he's being very, very particular. He is barely drinking and wants a lot of veggies and fruit. And Cheryl eats none of that shit, really. You know, he eats healthy pretty much all the time. She cooks unhealthy pretty much all the time. So now the kitchen is a massive clash. So I'm helping her with all her stuff. He's at the store spending over $200 on charcuterie trays with the meats and the expensive cheeses, and he garnishes them with big sprigs of fresh basil. I mean, he's over the fucking top. It's us. Who are you trying to impress here? So he comes back, and then he got all this stuff for a salad. And she gets all bent out of shape. She goes, oh, I lose my kitchen again. You know, he just takes over. So now by the time he gets back and he spreads all of his purchases on the counter, she's irritated so she starts slamming doors and making real short comment, and then she disappears. So evidently she went upstairs to do whatever. We just ignored her, you know.
Well, it's better to walk away than to blow up, I guess. So that's
Correct.
good for her, I suppose. Yeah. No,
correct. You know, but then she comes back down still with an attitude, you know, and says stuff, you know, behind his back. So I'm hearing them, I'm hearing her. I'm like, oh, what the fuck here? I don't want to be a psychologist today. I don't, you know. So I just said to Justin, listen. She goes, what the fuck's wrong with my mother? He goes, she's acting like a 14-year-old. He said, this is ridiculous. I said, well, couple things. I said, I think feels like she's losing control of her own home, her kitchen, her living room, blah, blah, blah. Now, everybody knows all this shit needs to get done. So with her, again, it's also finding that balance. You want change. You want the debris out. You want a fresh look. Okay. Maybe this pushed you a little further than what you wanted, but you know what? Maybe be okay with this for now, you know. And then Justin was saying, you know, that we got to keep this going. You know, I want them to clean this off, clean that off, because Greg is in a great mood. So it almost seems like Greg's happy. He's spending money. He's smiling. He's laughing. And Cheryl gets the puss on. It wasn't as, so then Elise says to me, he goes, you know, I heard what you said the first day I was here, how well she was doing with the way of impeccability. He goes, she hasn't changed. I'm sorry. She hasn't changed a bit. So whatever. You know,
It just seems like he has a lot of blindness to himself also, Ali.
yes, he does. Yes, he does. He has big fucking issues with his own mother.
Oh, that's what I figured. He has major mommy issues, and he, externalizes those massively. So,
yeah. And the first thing he said to me on the phone, I said, "Hey, welcome to PA. I mean, to back to Easton." And he goes, "Did you get the vaccine?" I said, "No." What? Let's go. I'm picking you up now. We're going to CVS now, with his big Lebanese accent.
yeah.
I'm like, no. I said, when I'm ready, I'll do it. You're going to piss me. I'm going to keep pounding. I said, say all you want. I'll do it when I'm ready.
There you go. Very good. Very good. Very good. Yeah.
But, he
I
just,
think that's from a little bit I gathered from Cheryl, she did chat some, that's what she's feeling pressed by him, and she can't respond. So she's frustrated, which, fair enough,
yeah. Did she talk to you today or yesterday?
Yesterday. Yeah.
Yesterday. Good. Yeah. So I just felt like I'm not getting in the middle of this.
It's very cool. It's very cool.
Yeah. So I'm glad she reached out.
Feeling pressed, and she was being restrained, at least in her mind. She was really making an effort to restrain herself and not blow up and read him the riot act, for Justin's sake. She said when they were in Italy, she got along fine with him, and she just felt like he was really being nasty to her, which was uncalled for. That was what bothered her, not the taking over, the nastiness, the bitchiness.
I don't see where, unless when I'm not there, he says stuff to her. Like he calls it like it is, but so does she. She doesn't mince her words. She never did. Neither does he. So I think it's just two very, very strong.
I said likely he's bitten by her, and he's got this big, powerful, domineering mother, and he's insecure, likely, with a mother like that, and that queenness. It's all part of the same pattern, really. So also, his mother would quite happily take him away from Justin if she had her way.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, totally right. So he assumes the same for Cheryl, because Cheryl said there's nothing she wouldn't do for Justin, absolutely nothing. But that's not one of the things that she would do. She doesn't want Justin back in the home. That ship has sailed. That's not an option. She'll do whatever for him, but him living with them, that's not an option. I don't think he realizes this. So lots of threats with her, and also she's very strong, and he likes to be the center of attention, and so she also doesn't give him scope for indulging his, that queenness. It doesn't work in her company. She doesn't play that game really. She's more direct. So.
Yeah. I mean, she likes to be the center of attraction, and so does he.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. But she said, she can get along with him. Just for whatever reason now, he was feeling a bit threatened. So and also she felt that he was supported in his nonsense, and that was problematic. So she didn't want to rock the apple cart too much, but that was what she felt was the problem a lot of the time. So. But appropriateness.
You don't want to pick sides. You like, Ali is choosing to eat healthy. I don't have a problem with that.
No, I don't think that never even came up. She didn't even mention that.
That's when she got out of her mind.
Well, it's not so much the eating healthy as just the taking over part. She doesn't have the ability yet to distinguish precisely or to articulate. She knows what the problem is. It's not that, hey, bring your healthy food, that's fine, but don't take over and want to force it on me. You can eat healthy if you want, but don't try and tell me that what I eat, how I eat. Leave that to me. That's my thing,
Yeah, he's always, and I can see what she means, is he's always harping on her smoking and on her weight. Exactly. What are you doing? What do you eat? That's not good for you. Stop the smoking. Stop. We're not going to have children. You will never see our children if you don't stop smoking.
Shit like that, it's like it's the same thing that his mother does, really.
Yeah.
He just does it in a more, at least in his social circle, a more socially acceptable way.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that queenie bitchiness, it's quite acceptable. It's kind of cute or whatever, you know, in that environment, but not in hers or not in most environments. So he gets indulged a lot, from what I understand. So
Mhm.
obviously, Justin indulges him, his mother indulges him. So yeah.
Mhm.
Very
Yeah.
interesting, very interesting, very interesting. But anyway, it was all good. Yeah, you know, she felt that, you know, after our chat, that, you know, she's learning, she's growing. I mean, she's making a real effort to hold in her. So whatever Ali says, you know, that's the thing too. That, you know, that she obviously felt the lack of support right from word go. You know, so.
Mhm.
But she's definitely, there's big progress as far as I can see. You know, and in
I
her
just kept saying,
internal
let
response.
it go. You know, you really are going to make a big, just, you know, she just steps aside. But when she steps, it's elephant
Yeah.
steps aside, you
Well,
know.
you know, it's she doesn't have all the tools just yet.
Right.
So she doesn't know what to do. And better that than blowing up. So
Yeah.
at least
Yeah. Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
that awareness of what's going on. She's not in the bubble. That's powerful. That's powerful. That's
Yeah.
very,
Well,
very,
that's
very.
why I was going to go upstairs and say, all right, you're in a bubble here. What do you need to do to get yourself out of this? What are you hyper focusing on that you can't see a bigger picture here? You've got help this weekend. I mean, her whole, for you know, living room was transformed in 2 days.
Yeah. Just,
You know,
yeah.
what part
It's
of
interesting
that, you know,
that
admit you
Greg
can't
is
do
on
anything.
board.
Oh, I wish I could paint. I wish I could this. I wish I could do my back, my, you know. So now that the help is
Yeah.
here,
Interesting.
she, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
she
I
doesn't
doubt
like
if
it.
she'll ask that help in a hurry again, though.
Oh, but see, she never asked
I don't
for it. They just took over. I am
know.
sure.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. See, that's also part of the problem, you know, and it's worked on Greg, so you got to appreciate the gifts of it. You know, it seems like the pressure from Don Francois and, you know, the police coming and all the city and all the shit, you know, the other neighbor, he's starting to, at least, you know, that starting change broke the dam a little bit.
Yes.
Seems
Yes.
like, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it's a struggle, you know, but also you don't, she hasn't seen them in so long. You know what I mean? That can't
Yeah.
yet sometimes just, it's like pick your battles,
She
you
was
know.
there. She was at his place in at Justin's place, like, I don't know, 2 months ago.
Oh, yeah, 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 that's right. And then now she's going back this
She's
coming
going back.
weekend.
Yeah.
She's going back. So he pulls
He
me on.
says when she gets them alone, it's better. Then Ali's fine. He said, but when he's in company, then he acts out. So,
Yeah, yeah. And
which makes sense for that personality,
yeah,
you know.
and he pulls me into right when we were getting ready to leave. He goes, come see let's look at the living room. And he didn't want me to see the living room again. He wanted
Yeah.
me away from that. And he says, oh, please, you come this weekend too, because Cheryl's going to come by herself. Again, I said, Ali, I can't come. I
But
said,
Cheryl doesn't want to be with others. She wants to be them, because
I
she
know.
said when they were in Italy, just them, he was very nice to her, and it was all fine. So
No,
yeah,
and I knew that. And I said, no way am I going to go out there. I
she
also
doesn't have a
like to go
problem
out.
with him,
What's
you
that?
know. So she doesn't have a problem with him. So, you know, if he has a problem with her, it's kind of a bit unnecessary. So it's very
Yeah.
interesting. But
Oh,
yeah, you know, when you come and take over people's house, don't impose your gay ways on them. You know, it's not about being gay. It's that culture. You know, I'm talking
yes.
about the gay culture, not
Yeah.
the sexuality side. That culture is not for everybody. That's a flamboyant culture, and it's a very, you know, in your face culture and all the stuff. It's really not for everybody. So just be aware. You know, have some discernment, for crikey's sake. You know. So
Yeah. And
anyway,
it's
but
funny because Justin
yeah,
usually is the buffer. Usually he's like, well, you know, Ali, I don't think my mom wants that or what. But he was like, we got to do this next, Aunt Sue. We got to do this next.
interesting. Interesting.
You know,
See, I think Justin was focused on Greg, not
yes,
Cheryl.
yes, yes, yes,
So it's all
yes.
good, you know, and Cheryl doing her thing in its own peculiar way kept the attention away from Greg, which was good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Greg could be happy, he could, because he's used to it. And
Mhm.
he could, and that, especially opening up the purse strings, that's a big shift.
Oh my God. He didn't even like usually if we go, I've been shopping with him many times. If he
Yeah,
doesn't like something, he's like,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he
It puts up
poo-poos
that
it
passive
because he's
resistance.
got the wallet. He's got the wallet. Yeah. And if he says no, it's over. And she goes, up, Greg just nixed it. Okay, try something else. But he was on board with everything. Oh my God, I
Wow,
like this. I like that. He was
wow,
happy. He was smiling at the fucking register. I mean, I'm like,
wow,
who is
wow.
this guy? But we're like, hey, jump on this because he usually is never like this.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
but
very good. That's very good. That's good to
yeah,
know. That's
yeah.
good to know. It didn't come up with Cheryl, but she was just, feeling a bit down because she didn't know what to do,
Hmm.
and she was doing her best to be her best.
Hmm.
So yeah, good for you, girl. That's all. That's the thing. Sometimes we see things. Explain to her. She has
Yeah.
loads of discernment. She sees stuff that other people don't see,
Hmm.
and that makes that you see layers of stuff, and that makes things very difficult, especially if you expect a bit of fairness.
Yeah.
You cannot. When you see more, you can't expect fairness. The
Yeah.
onus is on you to do more. It's as simple as that. That's
True.
it. End of
That's a good way
story.
to look at it. Yeah. Yeah.
For her, that's a big problem. She sees all of the layers, but now she's expecting others. What's obvious to her, she's expecting them to see that same obvious and act appropriately. And when they don't, then they're being deliberately nasty or crappy, which too sometimes, people like Ali, they can be that queenie bitchiness. It's part of the vibe. But it's not, you can't expect them to see what you see. It's
Yeah.
one of the problems of awareness that we have to understand unawareness and bubbles. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
True.
when you have that kind of a discernment, it puts you in a world where you're a little bit alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. No, that's very true. Very true. Thanks for
Yeah,
let me
yeah,
see that perspective. Yeah. Yeah. No, very important. Very,
yeah.
very important. And I even knew for me, I can't get in the middle of this. What do you want, Cheryl? I'll work with you. What do you want, Lee? I'll work with you. They clearly couldn't work together.
Yeah,
So, you know,
yeah,
uh, it was just
yeah.
silly. It just
I mean,
never happened.
taking over like that, yes, it gets things done. But at the same token, Cheryl also has to live in the house. It's not
That's
just
right.
Greg. I mean, yes, Greg may be having the purse strings, but Cheryl also has to live with it. And to just totally disregard her feelings and input, I mean, that's
Well,
kind of a big deal.
he never regarded what her input was when he built the home. It was
Right, right,
all his. She never had
right,
any input
right.
in that
But I
house.
mean, Justin and Ali now,
Yeah.
they just coming in and dictating whatever it is. Okay, Greg is happy, but to totally, sideline Cheryl, it's like, really? Seriously? I'm glad she kept her mouth shut though, because, okay, stuff did get done and Greg is happy. So at least that, and it's the start of things. Greg, okay, so she may sacrifice the living room, but next time when it comes to whatever, other places, she could now say, okay, you got it there, I'll have it here. And he's moving. There's change, so
Yeah.
at least that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
But yeah,
No,
but
that the
so
rooms.
she has to do more work typically with
Yeah.
her awareness. She has to do more work. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know from personal experience also.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Do more.
All
You have
right.
to do more. You have to be the
Yep.
adult in the room so often,
Yeah.
and especially with somebody like Ali, and of course Justin. He condones him and he's complicit in all of Ali's nonsense and indulges him. So she has to be the adult in the room when it comes to them.
Mhm.
Same with Greg, really.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Don't expect
Or
fairness from people like that. They're in a bubble. They're completely distorted.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Stuff. So anyway, I'm glad for her that she got through it and survived
Yeah.
without
Oh,
really blowing up. So despite
exactly.
what Ali says, there's massive change.
Yeah,
Massive
I
change.
know.
You don't
I'm
always
like,
want to.
you know what? I wasn't. He's one of those people you don't argue with. I'm like, okay, whatever. I didn't even say, okay, whatever you think, but I thought to myself, I am not even going to defend this because he is one of those people. He'll just keep turning it around in his, well, what about
The
this? And what
bully.
about it's a bully. It's a bully is right. So screw it. I'm like, I knew enough not to go
Mother's
there.
nonsense.
I
Yeah.
said, sorry you think that way. I said, but I definitely see changes. and then the conversation was over.
Oh,
You
good,
know, so
good. Brilliant. All right, very cool.
all
Very
right.
cool.
So there's two
Get
of my
back.
clients that I want to talk about. One is um, Dwayne, Dwayne Rabel, the guy who had the
Yes,
stroke.
yes. I remember him. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
he had
struggle
the stroke,
businessman.
and it came out in one of his sessions about connections and loss of connections. Well, it ended up,
Oh,
he opened up, it was about his wife and that their 29-year marriage, the last 12 years, his, it's loveless. There's no physicality whatsoever, no embraces, nothing. It's all, and he continues to try, has always supported her, and gives her whatever she wants. He bought her a 4 carat, for God's sakes, new diamond ring, and she took it off a few years ago, and it sits in there on the bathroom. And he was very, very offended by that. And, there was, some other things and stuff that was going on. So he wrote her, I said, it's, communication, you need to air how you feel. And, he's full of kind of pretty much diplomacy because of all of his teaching and motivational stuff that he does with people. That's why I said he's the guy who kind of, I think, really could be a great fit for Way of Impeccability.
Oh yeah.
So he wrote this letter and said, this is how I feel, and I really love you, and blah 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 blah. But he put all the stuff on the table, how things have changed, and what's going on and what do we need to do. He's a fixer. He fixes everything at work. When there's a problem, he has a solution. End of story. That's been his whole life. 80 hours
all
a week.
Of his MO is going to be counterproductive with the wife. Every single bit of it.
And you hit the nail on the head.
So then disparity guilt.
So after he read this to her, she was pretty much expressionless. She's had a little bit of a cry. And then he said, I don't want you to respond. I want you to go upstairs or whatever, take as much time as you want. And then let's talk about it, So a couple of days later, she writes him a letter. I don't know all the details of it, but it was nothing really in his favor, so to speak. For the most part, no big love, like, oh, I want to make this work and stuff like this. I'm sorry we went down this path. It was nothing.
All right, there we go. So disparity guilt. Yeah. So this is a guy who's got lots going on. He's very powerful. He's very successful. He's very competent, and he's very in charge. And he does what needs doing. Right. He does stuff. He's a doer. Right now, if you with somebody and they are like this, and you're not like that, by contrast, you feel like crap. You feel less. So the more he does nice things and good things, the worse she feels because of the disparity, right? And she's gotten behind. And no matter what he does, the nicer he is to her, the worse she's going to feel, because it just proves that she's not nice. Once that mindset on that track is there, there's nothing you can do except leave her be. It doesn't have to be divorce, but give her space. Put her in an apartment, in a house, in a whatever, on her own, and say, fine, do your own thing. Just give her space and give her time to be on her own without you, and just learn to see that. And you do your own thing. You don't have this pressure. You're leaving her be, and you're okay with her being who she is. All your niceness, it's an expectation pressure by implication, right? That expectation pressure is huge. Right?
Mm-hmm.
She wants to be able to be herself, even if that's crappy according to him. It's not, but in her mind, she needs to understand truly, have it proven to her that he's okay with her doing whatever the hell she does. And the only way that's going to happen is basically to give her some space and time to see the difference. And, distance lends enchantment to the heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes when there's that gap now, they start to see things without that constant pressure of making her feel crap. She can get to just see and, yes, support her. She wants this, she wants that, whatever. What she needs, not wants, needs. Okay, he's there, he's supportive without expecting anything in return. This is the problem. He does have an expectation right now. His expectation is for her to be happy. It's a pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
True.
everything he's doing in her mind, he's doing it for himself. He's being nice to her because he wants her to be happy, which makes him happy, right? Whereas when she's on her own and he has no expectations and there's absolutely no obligation. She can be miserable, she can be stupid, she can do whatever. That's fine. He's okay with that. And he's happy being on his own without her. That independence of being, it will set her free and then she'll come back to him. If not, then that's just the way it is to be.
But see, he traveled so much for even more so in the last 12 years. He was never there. So it was on her own.
Yes. I realize that maybe not in person, in physicality, but there's still that bond and that connectivity. Even though you're traveling, you still, texting on the call, on the phone, whatever, you come back, you fill the person in and you tell them all about, there's still in his mind a connectivity and expectations from her. She cannot live up to his expectations, even the simple expectation of simply being happy. Yeah. It's a pressure on her. So she starts resisting and pushing back. And the more he presses, the more she pulls away because the more she feels pressured. And that disparity guilt, she's aware of the disparity. And the more he's trying to get her to be happy, the more he makes the disparity very clear and obvious to her. She doesn't have his skills of being happy. She doesn't have his skills of positivity. She doesn't have his skills of doing. She doesn't have his skills of motivation. She's not as motivated, as energized as he is. I mean, she's lazy compared to him, likely, I'll bet. So, at least in his perception somewhat, or even in her own. So it's a big problem. It's a big problem.
I think she works, she works, but I think they both knew the last 12 years wasn't where it wasn't a real marriage. It was a very surface kind of a marriage. It looked good, everything, put the kids through good colleges and this and the other thing. And so when she now has this opportunity, she jumped on it for the divorce. I think there's been, probably more behind this than he ever knew. But so he said, then fine, then this is what we'll do. He said, it's not really what I was hoping for. He said, I was willing to go to counseling, to do whatever. And she didn't. She said, no, let's do a divorce. He said,
once that,
let's do it amicably. Let's do it easily. Let's, have no, as fair as possible.
There you go. I mean, the underlying problem here is that the better person he is, the worse she feels.
Yeah. So, right. So him being, the good guy, let's be fair. Let's do whatever. And we'll, split everything up. A couple days later, he says, let's not get any lawyers involved. Let's just do this ourselves. He got the paperwork from online of what needed to be done and, so forth. So he comes home and she says to him, I just want to let you know, I have retained a lawyer.
Oh yeah. Oh, I saw that coming.
Yeah. And he went nuts. He's like, okay, game over. He said, so now he found a lawyer who's, he calls her a pit bull with lipstick. So he says, don't, she made a big mistake here to take me to this place because I'm going to be relentless. And it's just, I'm like, are you sure this is what you really want to do? I didn't use the words, are you being impeccable, but are you being impeccable here? It's just that his head now is vengeance.
I'll send you a little story for him.
Uh-huh.
A lawyer divorce story. Just a lawyer talking to his client, and the thing is, in her case, she feels bitter and upset, and she feels put upon and done by. Sorry. She feels bitter. She feels put upon. She feels hard done by. She feels, unjust and all this. Of course, it's all our own fault, but that's got nothing to do with it. It doesn't change the reality of her perception. Yeah?
Can't change the reality.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is that her unhappiness is her own fault, right? That comparative mindset. She can't live up to her own estimations of herself, likely, right? And it's not his fault. It's not her fault, really. I mean, yes, she could do more, but she doesn't have to feel put upon. Her ego is being crimped because, she can't live up to the expectations. But it doesn't matter the reality. It's how she feels. So she feels in some way that she wants some payback. But yeah, he'd be better off not dragging it out into a whole long thing and just look at what the lawyer comes up, and then just give a little more than what he would have been willing to give.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the article is very cool. A little story. Women invest in relationships in a very different way to men. And the end result is that she's probably lost faith in his intent, right? So if you see somebody as too nice, and you cannot match that niceness, they are impossibly nice, you begin to doubt it. You assume that they're a very, very clever, smart BMN. Once that shift has gone to the intent, there's no hope for the relationship, right? Unless there's some time and distance separation where there can be a reevaluation. But in the constancy of what being entangled, no. So now, of course, if she sees his intent, when he says, look, let's just do this nicely, she automatically suspects foul play. Right? She sees him as the master of all gaslighters, probably, Make sense? How do you justify your own crappiness when you are with somebody who does make an effort, who is making every effort to be good and nice, who legitimately is doing this and making this massive effort? You're not making this effort. You kind of just, going along and being crappy and indulging and whatever. You have to find some legitimization. You can't say, whoa, they really are being nice and I'm crappy, because that doesn't work for people. Then that self-honesty doesn't work. So, of course, you turn them into a BMN, into a master manipulator, into a grand all-time ultimate liar. When that trust goes, forget it. Nothing you can do. The nicer you are, the worse you make it. It's just seen as more manipulation. You see how it all fits, yeah? Now, I mean, from what you say, I'm assuming he really is a nice guy, yeah?
Yeah. He seems very, very sincere, very, he thoughtful, very, I mean, he always makes her things, so you think, wow.
Right, but it's also strategic. Yeah. Obviously, so that's the problem. Many people cannot put sincere good intent together with strategy. The moment you're strategic, they just assume you're conniving and manipulative. They can't put the two together.
Yeah. I guess one time they were a few years back, he was trying to, be intimate with her, and he rolled over and tried to touch her, and she slammed her leg shut. And he said,
Wow.
he thought to himself, what the hell's that about? And he said he was just crushed. He's like, it hit me like, why would you do that? Because he's out taking care of her and trying to be the best husband and doing whatever he can for her. And she does this, and he says, are you okay? And I said, was there any, physical trauma to her, sexual trauma? I said, was she ever raped or anything like that? I mean, all of a sudden I said, because that can rear itself later in life when you haven't resolved, issues around it. And he said, actually, yes, something did happen to her. But she said that she was thinking about that for a moment, but she was also said, oh, I'm fat and I need to lose weight and I hate my body and I don't want you to look at me. So him being the fixer says, oh, okay. He goes, I'm overweight too. So why don't we go on a diet together? Why don't we go on an exercise program? Let's do this together as a team. And, you think that
But look at the horror for her of doing things like that together. She can't compete.
Yeah.
He's like very dedicated. He's very thorough. He's very disciplined. He's very conscientious. None of that is her, right? She's just going to look like a total shit compared to him.
Yeah. So competition.
Comparison. It's comparison is the problem here.
Yeah. And it really shuts her down. Yeah.
In other words, the problem is that he really is a nice guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that makes her, by comparison, look like crap.
Yeah. So
and it's a big problem. It's a very, very difficult problem.
So he just has to see the truth and let it set him free for the most part.
Correct.
And she has to do her stuff. If it means
exactly.
a relationship is no longer, then it's no longer, But what
doesn't have to give up. I mean, stay friends, and likely over time, when there's some distance and absence, separation provides that perspective that will show her, wow, actually he is, now that he's not connected to me, doesn't have a vested interest. He's still nice. He's still supportive. There's a need to, but he's doing it anyway. That is the only thing that will convince her that he actually is a nice guy. And when she starts to see that, then she'll start to come around and have a different perspective. But it'll just take time.
But I think he has turned
no easy solution.
His intent now to be I don't think the word aggressive.
To be combative, yeah, but that's the worst thing that he can do for himself.
Exactly.
For himself. Yeah. Absolutely the word. I'll send you the article. I'm going to pull it up for you in a second.
Okay.
Now, I don't think this is directly applicable to him, but there are some powerful points that will help him. She doesn't trust herself relative to him. Yeah. That ship has sailed a long time ago, right? He cannot comprehend how she can doubt his good intent. It's like dirt to him, but it's so impossible to her compared to herself. The discrepancy is so huge. It causes all these comparison problems and makes her feel very guilty for being crappy.
Yeah. So the remedy is the replacement is him just allowing it to be and accepting her and accepting himself as two separate people now, not
exactly.
As
yeah. And to understand that the nicer he is, the worse he makes it, because she doesn't trust his agenda. So really, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, you said the nicer he is, the worse it is for her. But now he said, you're messing with the wrong person. Now he's bringing the big
Yeah,
gun.
but all he's going to do in that is prove that she was right all along. So it's counterproductive. Now is the time where you basically got to bend over and take it. If he wants to repair things with her, and it can be repaired, and it is worth it in the long run to have her see that, look, you were mistaken here. It's going to take a while to understand that, but for his own peace of mind, it's going to be better.
Mm-hmm. But what if she doesn't want that? Maybe she hasn't wanted that for 12 years.
Wanted what?
A relationship with him.
Oh no, I know, but it's not about maintaining the relationship. I mean, that's long gone. You know, it's just it's transmuting it into a different relationship, one where they can be at least civil and friends and be on good terms. Because as the story explains, you know, your divorce settlement is an investment in your future, in your reputation, in your social circle and environment. You don't want a wife to go around like this, who has this comparison and questions your very intent, right? When it gets out there, well, yeah, he screwed me in the divorce. And, you know, he was doing this all the time. He pretends to be a nice guy. That's death for him. Coming from his wife to question his intent. If you cannot have trust of your good intent in your dealings, in your relationships, in your world at large, you're really screwed. So this is and your ex, yes, okay, there are bitter exes, but nonetheless, people give credence to what an ex says. This is not an investment that is worth its while to fight it. You know, yes, you'll win, but you'll lose. Yeah, yeah, you'll lose big time. You'll lose big time. You know, even in most divorce proceedings, the court has some say in things too, and the court will step in if the divorce contract breakup, you know, the settlement, it's too uneven, right? There has to be a reason for it. If he goes to the judge and said, look, I just want a fair split. This is what I said. I'm willing to do it without lawyers, whatever she wants, as long as it's fair. That's it. You know, I'm willing to even have it to be a little bit in her favor. I don't mind. That's fine. I just don't want, you know, negativity, and the judge will adjust it, you know, or can, you know, so. Or you can go to get an arbitrator, you know. So she can still have a lawyer and say, look, let's send it to arbitration. I'm willing to abide by the arbitrator. I just want fairness. I want to make sure you're good. I want to make sure you're taken care of. She doesn't trust herself, and she doesn't trust his intent. So there's no way she's going to do it without a lawyer, because she's almost convinced that she's going to get screwed. Not possible for her to do it without a lawyer. He's smart enough to be able to deal with a lawyer.
Yeah. So he said, no, we talk no more about this. He said, it's all through the lawyers. He said, I don't care if I piss every dollar of it away.
Exactly. That's exactly what she was after. It vindicates and proves her entire premise for all of these years that this has been going, right? You see, I was right all along. You actually are a shit. You actually are a BMN. You actually are a big manipulator, and you actually are a big shit, and you don't really care, and you don't really love me, and all that niceness was just bullshit. Yeah. So it's the worst thing he can do. The worst thing he can do.
Yeah, I haven't talked to him. He said he was supposed to be talking to this.
And it just, like I said, you know, it's an investment in your reputation.
Yeah.
People know who she is, you know, people go on social media and all this, and they pay credibility to it, you know. So, and, you know, he's in business, and people like to take whatever stuff like that and ham it up and, you know, post it and redo it. So it's like, no, man, this is not a very useful investiture for you, you know.
Investment in your, what was the word? Investment
reputation.
In reputation. Yeah.
And peace of mind too. Yes, he's now annoyed, but, you know, think in a year's time, you're going to regret this like big time. You know, you're just reacting on the emotion of the moment. Yes, she's being unreasonable, but that's the biggest problem. He's never been able to understand that she is fundamentally not as reasonable as he is, not even close. It's never been, the similarity. This is the biggest problem. Discrepancy, disparity. That's the point. That's the problem. Disparity and disparity guilt. That's what she has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting.
She feels put upon by him because of disparity. Of course, none of that has got anything to do with him. It's all her. But nonetheless, the nicer he is, the worse she feels.
Yeah.
Hard problem. Very difficult problem.
Interesting. Now, I don't know where he went, but again, I'm not a divorce lawyer for any stretch of the imagination, but I'm like, this is his switch. What I saw was a switch flipped in him. This nice guy all of a sudden hires the pit bull lawyer with lipstick.
Exactly. That's the worst thing he can possibly do, because he's not understanding where she's coming from. He just thinks she's been horrible and nasty and mean. And yes, she is. But there's a reason for it, because she thinks she's going to get utterly screwed otherwise. And she has no trust in him anymore, because she cannot. If she trusts him to have good intent, that means she is and has been crappy.
Mm-hmm.
She can't handle that. She doesn't want to face that awful truth. She can't live up to his standards. She's not motivated to live up to his standards.
Yeah.
But she doesn't want to let go. She doesn't want to let go of that positive image. And, because how are you going to do this, right? So she's caught in a bit of a
she overestimates to reduce that disparity. Yeah.
Overestimates herself.
Oh, right. To make that gap a little bit smaller with that disparity.
Exactly. But again, it's effort reward. If she actually applies herself and makes effort to close the gap, she's acknowledging there is a gap.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a messed up problem.
Wow.
It's difficult to explain.
Yeah.
But anyway, I sent you the article. Just forward it to him and see what he says. Right?
Yeah, I will.
And you can say to him, yes, it's a story, but it's based on very real experience. It's not a yes, it's written in the first person, but it's not a direct. It's a fictional story, in other words, but it's based on very real experience. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Pleasure. It's a good story. Good story.
Yeah. One other client I want to talk to you about is a new one. He's coming on. He's coming on Thursday. He's another acupuncturist who works with Tim. It's his friend. His name is Michael, and his forte in acupuncture is sports medicine. So I had an Achilles heel issue. So he wrote a book, and Tim wrote a book, and I read both their books, little snippet things, about acupuncture. And I said, wow, I said, that really struck a couple nerves with me with working out. I said, I'd like to come for an appointment. Can you see if Tim is okay with letting me see you? So he went through the motions, and Tim says, absolutely. He says, I think at this point, he said, because I don't have to see him, but like, so, what was it? So while this 15-20 minutes are going on, he tries to have me talk, I'm sure, so I don't get all anxious about this movement. So he's saying, what, tell me more about what you do. And, was telling him about this and more emotional work and psychological. And, I must mention the word grief. Well, he said at the end of it, he said, I'd really like to come see you.
Wow.
So I said, okay. I said, my next visit, let's schedule an appointment. So on Friday when I was there, he sat down and he said, Sue, he said, 20 years ago, he said, I lost both of my parents, one right after another.
Wow.
And he's, I think, 34-ish,
Yeah.
you know.
So,
So
he was
said
a
I
teenager
quite-
then.
He said I was quite young. He
Yeah.
said to have lost both these parents, you know, and he said, you know, I don't know that I've completely gotten over that grief. He said, because he said, I am fine on a social level, you know, talking with people, clients, meeting people, you know, in small groups and stuff. He said, the minute it turns into a date, he said,
Oh, wow.
I'm gone. He goes,
Wow.
absolute mess.
Wow.
Said, so he's doing this EMDR treatment, which is this rapid eye movement stuff to help kind of rewire the brain and send different signals. He said it's actually really, really helping.
I see.
So I said, great. I said, I know some of my other clients that are doing it and are getting results from it. I said, you know, this can certainly supplement, you know, from a different angle, you know, to help you. But I mean, yes, it is self-acceptance, self-honesty, self-appreciation, independence of being, and
It makes sense to me, and intuitively, with the moment you said date and then he loses it, the first thing that jumped into my mind was there's a misassociation regarding loyalty.
yes.
Right? So you see what I mean? Okay, you're supposed to love your parents. If you love somebody else, you're not loving your parents in the brain. Yeah. And when parents die early, like same with divorce, you know, the kids take it on, it's my fault somehow, right? They just assume that responsibility. So now, if that already is there, now obviously as you grow older, you start to realize, well, duh, it's not your fault. But nonetheless, though, when it comes to being loyal from a love point of view, and now you're loving somebody else, you're essentially saying, well, I'm not loving my parents. It's that logic mentality of opposites, right? Either or. And this belief that, you know, you have to love them absolutely, and if you don't, bad things happen. So there's a whole mess of associations likely going on in there. Yeah. Furthermore, what were the parents like?
I don't know. He didn't.
I mean, they may have been horrible people, not nice, and he may have been happy, you know, that they died, but feels fantastically guilty. Like, you know, he may even have said to somebody, well, I'm kind of pleased they went because they weren't nice. Oh, you're a terrible person. You're going to go to hell for that. You know, you've got to love your parents, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, you can never stop loving your parents. You can never stop loving your parents. The moment, if you believe that, especially if that gets emphasized in the brain and it's hardwired onto that, right? If the brain is in this either or logic, if I love somebody else, well, I can't love them and my parents, which means that now I'm stopping loving my parents. There's the mess. See?
Gotcha.
So it's all in how the brain, the belief system really, that's making this loop, this connectivity.
Yeah.
But likely if it's it's this either or thing, and guilt and blame and associated and loyalty, that if we love somebody else, he's giving up on loving the parents. And that's just a no-no and makes you a bad person, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it's amazing how either or can really screw up a brain. That people just cannot consider it can be both. I mean, like in a case like this, it doesn't make sense sometimes. It's so preposterously ridiculous, because all the person has to look around and say, but what about other people? How do they do it? Sometimes they're so in their bubble, they don't take that one simple, stupid little extra step to say, well, how does everybody else do it? You know what I mean? No, I'm special, I'm different, for whatever. My case is unique, But likely that's, I imagine there's some sort of survivor guilt. Survivor guilt is a fantastic thing, I mean, if people survive in a car accident or a bus or plane, whatever, and, they feel it's an absurd, crazy nonsense, But
Yeah, I asked him, I said, were they in a tragic car accident together or something? And he said, no. He said, my dad had a cancer and he died. And then very shortly thereafter, the mother's cancer killed her.
wow.
So it was both two different kinds of cancer at two different times.
Does he have siblings?
I don't know. I don't
Oh.
think so. I've
At that age, one has to be careful. Sometimes siblings, especially older siblings, will say the most outrageously, preposterously absurd things, and just for whatever knows reason, they're like tease the young kid, It's like, well, of course it's your fault they died, and they're like say it quite seriously, shit like that. And the kids believe it. I've seen people really struggle for most of their lives because of idiotic things older children said. Right now, especially when the parents aren't there to counteract this and correct it. But even when the parents are there, a lot of those things don't get corrected. I've seen people believe the most idiotically absurd things because older children said it. It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
And based on what? They just believe and get stuck in their brains. So there's definitely sounds like there's a misbelief, a misassociation involved here. Because if you find in a social situation, the moment he goes on a date, something happens, So I mean, who knows? Again, you could have preposterous BMN parents. Look at who was it? Which some mother somewhere was wanting to hold on to her baby and her son and all this stuff. It happens all the time. You see this where the parents are preposterous and, like you mine and, we're in a relationship. I mean, that's it. Somebody's mother-in-law said literally to the daughter-in-law that with the son, right? The son was basically very close to the mother and they would go and have dinners every night with the family. Oh, you're breaking up with me. When he started to, be serious about the wife. Yeah. It's like, what an idiotic thing to say. You're breaking up with me. But, it's not uncommon. I hear this kind of crap a lot of times, You're
leaving me. You're going to forget about me.
It's like shit, seriously.
One thing that I don't know who raised him either. I'm going to spend the first 2 hours just gathering kind of information from him and so forth and going from there. But so in the misassociation of that word, and as soon as he said the word date,
that's fascinating. So there's a guilt trip there somewhere. That would be my bet. Some major guilt trip, because otherwise the whole thing doesn't make sense. That he feels bad. This is wrong that he's doing this. He's being disloyal. He's being traitorous to the parents. Blah 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 blah. All sorts of nonsense. Yeah, it's like how can he be happy if the parents died early and weren't happy and whatever. So yeah.
So how in that misassociation, just
awareness
of what?
I mean, that's the solution, is just to go through it step by step. Now, it may seem so obvious to us and obvious and ridiculous, but you cannot assume it's so for the person, right? Literally, sometimes people are standing on step 1, right? And I mean, you can have it literally, and they cannot see step 2 right next door to them because they're completely in a bubble, right? So even though it's literally staring them in the face, they don't see it. Yeah. Fascinating. Yeah.
So unaware.
It's really amazing. It's really so here's another point I want to make. That's very powerful point. Oh, real quick, just on parents from the other side. When parents are holding on, something I find very useful to tell parents is to say, listen, your kids come through you, not from you. They aren't your creation. They aren't your construct. They aren't your imagination, your invention, nothing. They come through you. They may or may not be associated to you, connected to you, like you, somewhat similar to you. That's may or may not be. Sometimes kids come through their parents and they're nothing like their parents, like you and me, right? We're not like our parents, right? So they come through you, and when they click this, that, you know, at some point you got to let your kids go and let them be who they want to be. You can't be holding on to them. They're not your product. They're not your construct. They're not your creation. They're not you there for you to determine and dictate whatever. No, they come through you. Your responsibility is feed them, clothe them, give them an education, and, you know, give them the ability to choose, and that's it. After that, they're on their own. You can't be hanging on to them all the time. You know, you can't be the dictator. They're not yours. They're not yours. They come through you, not from you. Yeah. So that's a big point, and it really helps a lot of parents. They really get stuck on this idea that they mine. It's just in the language. Yeah. So the other point is with this particular client, and also with Dwayne, any of the clients. All right. So look, we want to deal with this, but it's a complex issue. We don't know where to start. We don't know even what all is involved. We don't know what the triggers are, what the beliefs, what the associations are. Now, what we can do is sit here and fish all the time, right? You can come and I can fish, right? I can hear you, you can talk to me, but that doesn't necessarily mean we are going to get there. However, there's a better way to do the fishing. That is with structure, right? So come and, you know, you pay me the regular fees and maybe a little more because we're going to do a structured program that takes a little bit more, right? Then you put them onto the transition course and say, the reason that we're doing this, it doesn't matter the course itself. It happens to be topical, but in the nature of the way this course is done, because of the repeat backs and takeaways in the Dictionary of Power, it automatically gets the brain to make connections and leaps and associations, right? And stuff comes up. It triggers you, it presses you, it stimulates what's important to you, what matters to you. Through that, the fish will rise to the surface automatically. They'll jump out of the lake into the boat. Yeah, we don't have to go fishing, right? That's the magic of the structure of the programs. That's why I keep emphasizing, yes, the content is important, but it's not the most important. It's useful, it's valuable. The way it's done is what's important, because through that way, we connect to the depths of the people, right? We don't need to go fishing, in other words, yeah? Plus, here's the other thing, right? In a typical therapeutic session, you know, or structure, where you're essentially fishing, you may catch a fish, but it's usually out of context. When that fish comes up organically, and, you know, part of the takeaways is to share when things come up, right? It's coming organically. It's coming in a context. And then it can be dealt with in context, and it can be dealt with organically, fluidly, smoothly. And it's coming in its own time. You're not forcing them to come, right? You're not pulling those fish up out of the depths. They've risen by themselves. Just that alone is a major, major difference. So tell them, look, whether you need this course or not is irrelevant. It's a structure, it's a format that allows the issues to come up organically, and we'll deal with them. Plus, of course, we are going to be dealing with valuable stuff, right? So there is value in it in itself, but there's this deeper value that the deeper issues are going to come up. Now, the course, of course, will likely trigger some stuff or stimulate or make the connections, and that's what you want. It's the connections that aren't obvious. And that's when you do the repeat backs and the takeaways. You're training your brain to make connections that we're not aware of. We can sit and fish all day long and we can never find those connections. But once you start to stimulate the brain through emphasis, the brain itself will make those connections. So the methodology of doing these programs is fantastically valuable. And on that same point, I wanted to say, hearing and helping is actually a program which you can do with anybody, regardless of who they're at, right? Dwayne, you know, hearing and all the skills of that will be fantastic for him in whatever he does. This particular person, any of your clients can use hearing and help.
Yeah. Yeah.
But its value comes in the doing of it. When you say this to somebody, look, we're going to deal with all your issues, but we don't want to be focused on the issues and on issues alone, because now we have a negative immersion and your problems make more problems. You're training the brain to think of problems. When the brain is focused on something else and the stuff comes up and you deal with it organically, it's de-emphasized. And it's a kind of a by the way, right? That's exactly how we want to deal with problems, like as a kind of a by the way. Yes, we give them full attention, but they aren't as the primary focus. The brain doesn't overemphasize them. We sort them out, we understand them, we deal with them. They're usually connected in context, but they're secondary, and that's important for the brain. Yes, they're important, but they're still treated as secondary, right? And it's a very, very, very powerful therapeutic technique, in other words, right? So, and this is our set up way of impeccability now. Way of impeccability itself puts a lot of pressure on people, because it's a new way of living that they have to learn, a new way of doing. The hearing and helping, that's beneficial no matter what you're doing. You don't have to change your lifestyle. It's an addendum, it's an addition. If the focus is like it is currently for Robin, really, yes, it's just, it gives her an environment for things to come up. Yeah. So it's massively, massively powerful. When we are too focused on one thing, we get a little bit stressed by that focus. But when we have this continuity, the content, and that gives us that when stuff doesn't come up, you don't feel under pressure. Oh, I should be sharing stuff. There's no pressure. It comes organically. The moment you put pressure on somebody to share all of their secrets and stuff like this, it's counterproductive.
Right.
The emphasis aggravates.
Yeah. Here's the good news. I said, nothing will be pulled out of you. It's whatever is supposed to come up when it's supposed to come up.
Exactly.
With what we deal with. The only tricky part here is we're doing a trade.
See. Okay. Well, you don't worry about me. If you want to do it with him and he's not giving you any money, don't worry about me. Truly, just do it. Just do the program. I'm happy just to do it. Don't worry about me. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I have to do it myself first. That's my next thing is, and I'll be working with him for a while. So it's not like,
I truly wouldn't worry, even if you haven't done it. Really, Sue, do it together with him. I wouldn't worry about it. I wouldn't worry. Just trust it, because you know what your intent is. Yes, the content is going to help him tremendously, but you are there to hear in between his repeat backs. And you've got to emphasize, yes, the repeat backs are important to do, because it changes the brain, right? Puts it in your own words. You're training the brain to think for itself and to articulate and verbalize what's coming up inside. Then the takeaways, this is important to say, yes, you are doing a takeaway. What did you find helpful here? What did you find valuable? What did you find important? And what came up in you that wasn't necessarily directly connected, right? Now, when that stuff comes up in you, write it down immediately. It's like dreams. If you don't write it down, it goes, right? And it doesn't matter. You're washing the dishes, you're driving in the car, you stop and you write it down immediately. Be absolutely ridiculously disciplined on this. It's a big deal. It's a very big deal. That's the gold. That's the stuff that we are mining for, right? But don't I say this is the only thing, but just emphasize that it's important. You know how it works. And all you got to do is just listen for those things and you'll deal with it automatically. Plus, you'll have the course to go back to provide continuity. It's the same logic as why you go out and have dinner and you eat on a date. You don't have awkward silences, right? There's no pressure. If I've got nothing to say, well, I stuff my mouth. It's as simple as that, right? So that's the key. The same thing that the program provides a structure that gives the person something to fall back to when they're essentially empty. Otherwise, they feel under this pressure. I've got to share. I've got to talk, and that's a big stress on people, right? So this way, you've got something to go back to. It's very, very, very powerful. And because there's not a focus on the stuff coming directly, they don't invent shit to share with the therapist.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
It's not that people are inventing it from a lying point of view, but I should. And then they start to think, and they take something that's a tiny little thing and they make it into a big thing because they really just don't know what else to say. It's fascinating how therapy is, traditional therapy is so counterproductive. It's astonishing.
Yeah, I towards the end, that was happening for me. I'm like, what am I going to talk about? And I would like, well, okay, this happened today. And then it would blown up. Yeah.
Yeah. So just do it with him. Doesn't matter that you've not done it. I think it would be actually great that you haven't done it. It would be kind of cool. You're going through it with him, and you'll have fresh stuff, your own perspectives. I know this will be fun for you. The main point from your point of view is you doing this to provide a structure for ongoing therapy, essentially.
Yeah.
And for fishing, really. And
Right.
then when the stuff comes up, you hear it and you deal with it. You hear it, you deal with it, and that's it. But it's not the focus. The focus is on the content and doing that, as on the surface. It's very, very, very cool, very powerful stuff. The hearing program, this I feel is, Bina mentioned that, she was looking to do something, and I said, that's it. If you want to do something, do that program. Don't do Way of Impeccability. Way of Impeccability takes a lot of doing, because there's a lot, yes, the slides have a lot on them, but each slide connects to so much more. It connects to the whole philosophy, and there's a depth. I mean, it's a big, big, big deal. The hearing and helping is very tight and very focused, right? It's very technical, it's very detailed, but it provides the framework for that therapy to come up. I see how fantastic this is, for in the case of like Robin, you can clearly see how wonderful it is. We do a little bit of it, but most of the sessions are taken up about stuff that comes up, and we talk about that. It's too fantastic. And because there's no pressure, and we know we can always go back, it's free. That's the magic way. Having that freedom and without the pressure, this is unbelievable. And you watch too. You watch when the organic discussion, whatever the thing is, when it's run its course, you'll see people, Robin, okay, where were we? And she'll just continue, right? She'll jump right back in there when she's kind of, okay, I'm done with this. She can't say, otherwise in the therapy, well, I'm kind of done with this. Well, the therapist might not feel so, but that way they have control with how much they deal with it or not, right? Because if you keep going when somebody's done, then it's negative, counterproductive. You kill every single bit of positive value you had before. You kill it all if you go just one sentence more than where the person wants to go.
Correct.
So, having this structure, it's fantastic. It's absolutely valuable. That's why I really feel the hearing and helping course, this is major, especially because it's set up, from 3 points of view. You as the client, hearing yourself, hearing somebody else, whether they be an actual client or not. They can be your partner, your children, your employees, whatever. And thirdly, to hear the world. So it can be a spiritual program too. So you've got every angle from, the spiritual to the inner personal. And you can do them multiple, all of those, or focus on the one that's most relevant to the person.
Yeah, when you think about it, you're right. The hearing and helping is for everyone.
It's perfect.
Justin would benefit from hearing and helping.
Exactly. Absolutely. And also the fact that it doesn't, right. A Way of Impeccability revolves, it demands an intent and a commitment and a motivation, which few people possess to be impeccable. This is rare, right? But everybody understands the necessity to actually listen, and which, in order to listen, you have to be patient, you have to be tolerant, you have to step aside, you have to have discernment, you have to have awareness. And they know this is needed in their lives. Absolutely know it. They know they need to make space. They know they need to be more appreciative. They know they need to be more attentive. They know they are, so they know all this stuff, but it allows their personal issues to come up in the conversation. That's the key. No matter what, when you're doing repeat backs and takeaways, the brain starts to connect. It cannot help but do so. The moment you take any one thing and you think it through to the end, automatically you're going to have a lot of side paths that come up. Just the way any road, you go from A to B, there may be no side paths, but when you go cross country, there's a zillion side paths on any highway, right? So that's the key. When you think things all the way through to the end, you get those side paths. Those side path connectivities, they're going to bring up your crap. Which you don't even know is crap. You see for yourself how stuff came up, right? But it happens so naturally, so organically, so smoothly. That's the beauty. Emphasis. We want to be masters of emphasis. So you can maybe just say to him, look, I'd like to try this as experiment, and because you're open, you're free, and that's it. Let's do this in a different way. You'll see how it works, So I just come, here we go. And again, too, this is the other magic of this approach. It forces the client to actually do some freaking work.
Yeah.
When they do the repeat backs and the takeaways and the dictionary of power, they've got to, that's the essence, the key, the magic of any therapy. If you cannot get the client to do work, forget it. They can sit there and agree with you all day long. Wow, that's so insightful. Oh, you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, you got it. They got to do the work. They got to make it their own. Otherwise, forget it. All your wonderful insights and shares and knowledge and wisdom means bugger all. Absolutely bugger all, right? So that's the magic of the program. They're writing it down. It's emphasized. They're thinking about it. Yeah. Then they're coming back into the session and you're asking them to repeat what they've already. So you've got this double emphasis, the repetition, right? So it's just a ridiculously powerful therapeutic method, but we don't want to be obvious about it, right? Yeah. So try it with him. Try it with Michael. It'd be really fun. It'd be really fun.
Okay.
And again, I appreciate it's in trade. Please. To me, that you're gonna do this and practice it and apply it and implement and give value to your client. That's more important to me. If it happens where I get something out of it, fine. That's nice. It's cool. But if it's not appropriate, it's not appropriate. End of story. So please don't worry about that. Yeah. Truly.
Okay. Perfect.
Always about appropriateness. Is it appropriate in this case? Exactly. It's appropriate. Right.
Yeah.
So I just love this that you can you have this opportunity to do this, and it's come up so in the grief thing. And I truly feel when you do share that with him, it's going to open up his brain in ways that's going to be like, holy shit, you're going to really see a different relationship. In him, you're going to see his brain process happen. But it needs to go slowly, and he does need to. So absolutely emphasize, doing the repeat backs, takeaways, dictionary of power. All three together. They are very, very, very crucial. It doesn't matter that the dictionary of power is not a way of impeccability, dictionary of power. It makes no difference. It's about, the tagging. When they do a dictionary of power, it allows them to take their entire takeaway and tag it. And it enables the brain retrieval mechanism, right? So when you have a dictionary of power, it goes together with a takeaway with a subject. So when that term comes up in your vocabulary, it brings with it all the understanding, all the discernment, all the insight. So we are using the brain's mechanism and vocabulary, the power of vocabulary. Vocabulary is self-creating, self-affirmative. It creates its own reality. Yeah. So there's a deep, very, very sophisticated psychology underlying the methodology of doing these programs. So I have to really emphasize that, to say, hey, I'll do this with you. You get this program essentially for free. You're just going to pay my regular fee. Right? It's just a bonus for you, as a gift because of a whole bunch of reasons. But there is a balance here. There's a catch. The catch is you need to do this as intended. Right? That's the catch. Usually, though, that's the thing. When people go to therapy, what do? What do they do? Except just, blah, blah. They don't actually do anything. They're not thinking. They're not figuring it out. They're not going to the end. They're not making connections. They're not considering and contemplating and wow. And through that, when the brain gets emphasized, of course, when those nodes jump up, you suddenly become more aware of shit that you wouldn't otherwise have been aware of. So the emphasis is major because it literally changes the brain and it opens up the brain by those enlarged nodes to actually be able to remember and be aware of stuff that otherwise is blocked to it. Yeah. So the emphasis they're doing is a major issue. Otherwise, you could have them sit and chat forever and they're never going to share stuff with you. Yeah. And not that they don't want to, the brain is just not activated enough to do that. So they have to be doing. Yeah. So this will be very exciting. This will be very, very, very exciting. And like I said, you could take on any client and you just say, look, you come and this is my fee, and you give them the thing. Okay, we're going to do the program, and you charge them your regular, do it on a monthly basis, right? If they don't want to come weekly, but say, because look, this is a bit longer term, do it monthly. Okay, you pay whatever the fee is monthly. That's it. So that's it.
Yeah.
At least they're a little bit committed, rather than committing to the whole program. Just get them to commit monthly. Here's the other thing.
He said, I'm very committed. I am very committed. He said.
So there's another reason why I'm advocating this method of essentially therapy, right? Because it's addictive. when people start to think about stuff, their personal stuff that's of importance to them, right? It can, yes, you're doing the repeat backs and the takeaway. Automatically, the takeaway is what's important to you, right? So now you're thinking about what's important to you. When they feel, and that once that starts to happen, it's like a drug that kicks in because they've never done this all their lives. Stuff that they really kind of should have done, but never did. But it's not that they're doing it, and it's like they always thought it was something that would be onerous and horrible and stressful or whatever. But it's not. It's the most joyful, delicious thing. And then on top of that, you get somebody who actually listens to what is important to you. It's no bigger drug.
Yeah.
So understand that.
That's how Cheryl's reacting.
Exactly. Exactly. So when you understand this, and that's the drug I want them to get hooked on. Yes, after a while, they're going to be weaned from me, but they once they're on that path of being hooked to their own thinking things through, considering, basically, really becoming involved in your own path and journey, you're self-empowered, and that's it. It's a fantastic situation. It's self-curative, in other words. Look at Cheryl. When she bumps her head, that's why she came up yesterday. She said, I don't know what to do. I want to do this, but I don't know how. Fine, that's great. Now we explore alternatives, options, more techniques, more tools. That's great. But she wants to, and that's it. She's hooked to solving herself. And that's it. So there's this deep underlying logic to it, and I love it. I really tested it. I never just assumed. This was my intent from the start, obviously, but I didn't want to assume that I believe it works. I want to be sure, so that's why, I tested it. I tried a few with like Erica and Donna and Bina and Ryan, and just did it kind of as best as possible. I didn't want to put pressure on them because I didn't want them to quit. I thought it would put pressure on them to do it fully. I said, no, it's not working. So then when Erica came back, I said, okay, we're going to do it, but on one condition. We have to do it as intended. That shift, that was major. I mean, this is like night and day. It's like that.
Yeah.
So, by the way, I will at some point go back to Way of Impeccability and add more tasks and exercises.
Yeah, good.
It's very light on tasks and exercises. In the same way I did in the other programs. Break them up, not at the end of the session, in the middle like that, and section by section inside the session. That definitely is a plan to do. Yeah, because I do see how people respond to those. They like them. They really enjoy them.
Absolutely.
Because they're done in a very different way. They're not right or wrong. They're designed to stimulate and for you to test your own knowledge. Yeah. So it's very powerful stuff. Perfect. So anyway, I'm very excited. So I'll be very happy, for you to do that. Please free and enjoy it, truly. If the situation comes where you can pass something on, good, you pass it on. If not, use it as you feel appropriate. Don't worry about it. So truly. I'm just happy to see you get value. And, bonus. And I love to discuss it as well,
Yeah. I like to share it with you. Yeah.
It's always learning, always learning and growth involved.
Sure.
So, I know what I can do with the programs. I'm keen to see what you will do on your own. So I'm very keen to see that as well. Very
cool.
So share with me as you go through it with them. And with Dwayne, the hearing thing for him, again, if you present it to him as, look, it's not about the content. Yes, this is valuable content. Some of it you probably know already. Others going to take what you know further, and some might be a little bit new. But it's the structure that I'm interested in, right? The structure allows us to go where we've not gone before. Those unknowns, they're going to come up, which otherwise you're going to just be fishing. You may fish forever, right? Yeah. This allows the fish to rise to the surface themselves and jump into the boat.
Yeah.
Very powerful, The structure, right?
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. So keep me updated. How's the other lady, the Judy, I think her name is. How's she doing?
She's doing good. She had sent me a thing and held herself together for the shower and through the granddaughter's thing. And she said she can't wait to share all the stuff with me this coming week when she comes for her next appointment. So. And
Chelsea, she's still coming to you?
No. I mean, I talk to her when I'm getting a facial, but it's I give her therapy when I'm getting my own facial, but it's, it's just her. I'm just listening, really.
But she's okay though. Yeah.
Yeah, Chelsea's. Yeah, she seems fine. She seems fine. You know.
Very cool. Very cool. Brilliant.
So, okay.
Brilliant.
All right.
I love it, Sue. I love it. I love it. Yeah, keep me in the loop. Keep me in the loop. So
Thank you, Phil. Appreciate
pleasure,
it.
so pleasure. All right. See you when we see you.
All right.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye. Very cool. Very cool.